Welcome to Around Kansas. I'm Deb Goodrich,
And I'm Michelle Martin.
and we are celebrating Friday Fun Day. So, TGIF. So, every Friday, we're going to upload a segment that talks about all the fun things you can do around Kansas. And I want to thank Corky Heller. He is an amazing photographer, and the background that I'm sharing with you today came from his camera and keen eye. He is just amazing. And you can find a lot of Corky's photos on Facebook and talk about Fun Day. He has a lot of fun doing some amazing photographs, does a lot at the Maxwell Wildlife Refuge. So, talk about a fun day and a way to get out and enjoy the scenery and the wildlife and take the family. That's a great place to do it.
Well, one of my favorite fun places in all of Kansas, Deb, is in Fort Scott. And it is pictured behind me, and it is, of course, the Fort Scott National Historic Site. Now, I have to confess, I have not only a soft spot, but probably a huge bias for Fort Scott. I lived in Fort Scott for several years, from about 2000 to 2007, and I was a professor at the college there. And the Fort Scott National Historic Site became my second home. And uh, as a living history interpreter, this was an amazing place to be able to share the stories of women in Kansas history with our visitors. And so behind me, you see the building today that serves as the visitor center on the lower level. But this was originally the post hospital, and the architect of the post, Captain Thomas Swords, was amazing. He decided that locating the hospital where it was at was a great way to be able to take advantage of the Kansas breezes or the wind. And as we know, there's no shortage of wind in Kansas because they could open the windows in the hospital wards and they could get cross ventilation. And they found that it was good for health. And also with the porches, the verandas there, they could also have patients sit outside and they found it was good for their health. But if you were looking for an easy day trip, if you're in the eastern part of the state, if you're looking for an easy day trip, Fort Scott is definitely one for you. It is located off of Highway 69. And actually, you can get off the Highway 69 exit at Wall Street and follow the signs to Fort Scott National Historic Site. And during the course of the year, they hold numerous events. And of course, with COVID, a lot of those have been impacted this year, but they still have amazing facilities for you to visit. Many of the buildings are original, some are reconstructed, and all of them are furnished with period interiors and artifacts. And you get a real good slice of what it would have been like to be a soldier, an officer's wife, a laundress, someone who was here in Kansas in the 1840s while it was still Indian territory. And of course, Fort Scott played a tremendous role in Bleeding Kansas. So you also learn about its role in Bleeding Kansas and the Civil War. The fort served as a place for refugees from Missouri and the Indian Territory who came in. And it is a very important location with respect to the integration of the military, because it was at Fort Scott that the 1st Kansas Colored and the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd regiments of Indian Home Guard were made part of the Union Army during the war. So definitely, if you're looking for Friday fun, go check out Fort Scott. And it's
Michelle,
got a
well,
beautiful downtown.
I was just going to say, while you're at it, tell them about the downtown because talk
Oh,
about gift shops.
yes, definitely. Downtown Fort Scott is absolutely charming. Many of the buildings from the 1850s, 1860s, and 70s remain. They're filled with shops and restaurants. While you're there, you can actually visit the Lowell Milken Center for Unsung Heroes. It was started, of all things, it grew out of a National History Day project some students at Uniontown High School were involved in, a program called Life in a Jar. And it grew from there. And eventually, out of that came the Lowell Milken Center. You can visit the shops and the restaurants downtown. You can also, if you're looking for great Mexican food, you can go visit El Charro's, which is on the south end of town. But they've got wonderful shops and restaurants in downtown Fort Scott, and you're sure to find something. Some nice antique stores. They got a great bookstore, and there's a wonderful little restaurant called Papa Don's. Great pizza, great salad, fantastic sandwiches. So Fort Scott's got something for everybody, and it's really beautiful. Also, take some time to go drive through and visit Gun Park. Absolutely gorgeous. You can get some food, take it out, have a picnic lunch. And don't forget that Fort Scott was also the birthplace of world renowned photographer Gordon Parks. And you can visit the Gordon Parks Museum that's on the campus of Fort Scott Community College.
So one of my favorite places since I moved to Kansas in 1992 is Old Prairie Town and the Wardmead Mansion in Topeka. And I think that if Topeka and maybe even Kansas ever had a family reunion, this is the place it should be held. Anthony and Mary Jane Ward settled there in the territorial period, and their home, their original cabin, was a stop on the Oregon Trail. So when they crossed the Kansas River there, that was the first place you came to. Anthony was a millwright, so he fixed wagon wheels, and Mary Jane fed people, and she kept a candle burning in her window so that people could find them in the dark. And it's one of my favorite places. The gardens are absolutely amazing. The home is furnished with many of the items that belong to the Wards. And I actually, the Wardmead family had a family reunion there many years ago, and I got to attend and interview members of the family, including at that time the last surviving grandchild. So it's just an incredible and beautiful place. The cabin has been reconstructed. It was torn down a long time ago, but it's been reconstructed. My good friend Brad Davenport actually built that reconstructed cabin, which is wonderful. And they have Christmas meals in there, which are just, oh my goodness, it, I can't say enough about the staff and everybody that's there. And it's operated by Topeka Parks and Rec, and it's just a fabulous site. And before we go to a break, there was one place that I wanted to be sure and get in. And on the other couple of days ago, we told you about the SantaFeTrail.org calendar, SantaFeTrail200.org. Council Grove, and Council Grove is another one of those places, like Michelle said, that make a great day trip depending on where you're coming from. And if you're coming from a little farther, make it a 2-day trip, because there's so much to see and do there. And the history is just layer upon layer. And for the anniversary of the Santa Fe Trail, they have so many events planned, and they've been working so hard. Their committee's been working so hard. They are going to have several spectacular events before the end of the year to mark the 200th, and then maybe on into the next few years. So make sure you check out Council Grove. You know, we're going to do these Fun Day Fridays and talk about day trips and all the fun places you can go. And we will never run out, because Kansas has so many interesting and beautiful places that we'll never run out of places to talk about. So let's take a break for one of our sponsors, and we'll be right back with some more great places.
In 1821, a trade route was opened from Missouri in the United States across prairies and mountains to Mexico. In 2021, we will mark 200 years of epic conflicts and grand adventures, larger-than-life personalities, and sweeping landscapes. Join us on an historic journey. The Santa Fe Trail lives on.
Find us on social media or santafetrail.org.
Okay, looks like it's time for our tour. Welcome to the Fort Wallace Museum. Here at the museum, you're going to find some really interesting stuff, like our replica stagecoach from the Butterfield Overland Dispatch. We've got facades from the fort buildings. We've got an 1870s flag. There's a plesiosaur that was discovered locally. We've got the Ray pump organ collection. We're a little bitty place with a great big story, and we'd love to have you.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back. Continuing our theme of Friday Fun Day in Kansas, I want to take you to one of my favorite places to get out and enjoy nature, and that is in the Flint Hills, and it is the Tallgrass Prairie National Preserve north of Strong City. Now, folks, this is where I've had my close encounter of the bison kind that you don't exactly want to have, but wow, was it ever amazing. The Tallgrass Prairie Preserve is a joint venture between the National Park Service and the Nature Conservancy, and it is one of the most beautiful sections of tallgrass prairie in the Flint Hills that is preserved. And when I lived in Kansas, even when I moved to Oklahoma, I never tired of visiting tallgrass because it is simply amazing. Not only do you have the chance to visit the Z-Bar Ranch House, which right now is undergoing extensive restoration, but you've got the ranch house, you've got the barn and the other outbuildings there from the ranch, but then you have the actual prairie itself. The Tallgrass Prairie Preserve has some amazing trails that you can hike. They're not technically challenging, so they're great for the whole family. And the windmill pasture is one of the longest trails. It is one of the prettiest and most scenic.
Very pretty.
But it is also where the bison roam. And I had an opportunity one year. I spent 2 days in Strong City, and I hiked Tallgrass Prairie both days. And my second day, I was out in the morning. I'd gone out. I let the ranger staff know I was going out to the windmill pasture. And they said, yeah, just be careful. The bison are there. Just give them a wide berth and, they'll be good. They'll leave you alone. I said, great. So there I was. My camera bag at the time was a backpack. I carried about 30 pounds of gear. And I had a camera in hand around the neck, but I had gear in the back. And I had a pair of dark hiking pants and a dark top, and I had a hat on. I had a baseball hat on that also happened to be dark. And bison don't have the greatest eyesight. And in all honesty, the wildlife biology ranger that had to come rescue me said he thought the reason the herd moved in very quickly and cut off my ability to move forward on the trail or back or any side direction because of the hump shape of my camera bag on my back, they possibly mistook me for a lost member of the herd. And they were literally trying to bring me back in because they ringed me, surrounded me. And so I thought, well, the best thing I can do is sit down and be still so they know I mean them no harm. And I sat down, put my bag in front of myself, got out my cell phone, and I called the ranger station. And the ranger who answered the phone was a friend. And I said, I need someone to come get me in the windmill pasture. What's the matter? Well, all of a sudden, the herd have popped up, and I can't walk either direction on the trail, and I can't go off trail either. Are you surrounded? Yes, I am. We'll be right there. And of course, as soon as the ranger and the vehicle came out, when they heard the vehicle, they of course moved. But before then, it was a pretty nervous, tense, about 9.5 minutes of my life waiting. But I have amazing photographs. I put my camera on top of my bag and just started moving it and shooting. But I actually outstretched my arm, and one of the bison came up close enough to sniff my outstretched hand. And I think at that point it realized I wasn't one of them, but I was shorter and I probably didn't mean him any harm. And he backed up and gave me a very wide berth. Yes, thank goodness. But the ranger rolled up and I hopped in, and he said, well, that was a little exciting, wasn't it? And I said, that's the understatement of the year. But I have to tell you, it is some of the most breathtaking views in Kansas are at the Tallgrass Prairie Preserve. And everybody has got to see it at least once in their life. It needs to be on
Yeah.
your Kansas Fun Day Friday or your bucket list for sure.
Well, keeping the grasslands theme, the Cimarron Grasslands in the southwestern part of the state. Talk about a view when you go up to the point of rocks there and you see that the riverbed that's 99% of the time dry beneath you. Oh my goodness, it is spectacular. And the grasslands are just stunning. And the first time I saw the grasslands, the first time I visited was in February, and there was a front moving in. So the skies were just that incredible deep gray, and the grass was almost white. It was just, it was a stunning scene. And about that time, a coyote just is loping through the grass, in his element. And it was breathtaking. It was just the most incredible thing. I love that place. It's full of history. It's full of incredible scenery, and preserving the natural state of the land there. It's just an amazing place, and yeah, I think that's another one that really needs to be on your bucket list when you're traveling the state of Kansas to go down and see that. We've got grass. We're all about grass. And so
Definitely.
these grasslands that are preserved are so important to the environment and to our story, and not just our story as Kansas, but the story of the Great Plains, forever and ever. And for the migratory herds of buffalo and pronghorn and elk and deer and all the things that have ranged here for eons. And so those grasslands tell an incredible story. So it's another great family place to visit. All these places that we've mentioned today are great places to take the family.
Definitely. And Deb, I was thinking when you were talking about Wardmead Park, you know, I bet some of our viewers are also fans of Sunflower Journeys on KTWU. And if you watch reruns or look for previous episodes on YouTube or on any of their streaming channels, you will find that many of the places we've talked about have been featured in Sunflower Journeys, whether it be Fort Scott or Wardmead Park. Wardmead Park is a fantastic backdrop for filmmakers of all kinds here in Kansas, and also the grasslands, the Flint Hills. All of these places have captured the imagination of writers and painters and photographers, poets, and filmmakers. So definitely watch those films and watch those shows carefully, because you never know when you may see Kansas on the screen right in front of you.
Sarah Plain and Tall, in the Flint Hills. Yeah, so many
Definitely.
landscapes that have been great backdrops for film. So, yeah, I will have some more for you next week. So make sure you check in on Fridays when we upload our Fun Day Friday. And if you've got some ideas for Fun Day Friday, let us know.
Well, we hope you enjoyed our first installment of Friday Fun Day. Deb and I can come up with no end to fun things and places to see and do in Kansas. And we hope you will visit some of these places and show them the love. With the pandemic, a lot of our museums and a lot of these places really do need our help right now. And let's face it, folks, sometimes these are some of the biggest employers in some of our communities, and they really are the backbone of some of our, especially our rural communities.
Right.
So if you've got the chance, go out and show them the Kansas love.
In the meantime, we'll show you some love every episode of Around Kansas. So I'm Deb.
I'm Michelle.
And we'll see you somewhere around
Kansas.
Howdy, I'm Seth Hayes, and welcome to my hometown, from then to now, Council Grove has a rich history as deep as the Prairie Tallgrass. Spend the day visiting 25 historic sites or explore the unique shops and restaurants, or mosey out of town along the Santa Fe Trail. You all visit my hometown, Council Grove, in the heart of the Flint Hills.
Welcome to the Western Kansas Wildlife Travel Center, right here in my hometown of Oakley, Kansas. We're the front door of Western Kansas, located on 3 main highways, I-70, US 83, and US 40. And all those roads lead to history, beautiful scenery, and adventure, no matter which direction you go. We now have an IHOP. That brand that you've trusted up and down the road in all your travels is staffed with local folks, real people just like you and me, and we're waiting on you to join us. So for fun, adventure, fuel up, fuel your body, and let's have some fun.